What if I told you everything you thought you knew about sex addiction was wrong? Today I'm going to reveal why most treatment approaches fail and what's actually needed for real recovery. There's a critical misunderstanding about sex addiction in the mental health field. While the DSM-5 and most insurance companies don't even recognize it as a legitimate diagnosis, the reality is that it follows the exact same pattern as other addictive disorders. When someone starts, they can't stop. When they try to quit, they find themselves pulled back into the mental processes that they can't control. And just like with substance addiction, there's almost always something deeper driving the behavior. But here's what makes this so important. 80% of sex addicts have experienced some form of trauma in their childhood. That's not just a random statistic. I know this firsthand because I've lived it. I spent years trying to stop my addictive behaviors through sheer willpower, only to keep falling back into the same patterns over and over again. It wasn't until somebody finally told me something that changed everything.
Russell, your problem isn't just sex addiction. Your problem is being sober.
When they said that, it completely transformed my understanding of recovery. The acting out wasn't the real problem. It was actually my solution to a much deeper issue. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly why sex addiction isn't just a mental disorder, but rather a symptom of an underlying trauma and emotional pain. More importantly, I'll show you why traditional approaches to recovery often fail and what actually needs to happen for real lasting change to occur. Number 1, the classification debate. Let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. Why isn't sex addiction officially recognized as a mental health disorder or an addiction? The DSM-5, which is basically the Bible of mental health diagnosis, doesn't include it. And while there is an international code for it, insurance companies and mental health professionals don't recognize it as an official diagnosis. But here's the thing. If you look at the patterns, it's absolutely consistent with other addictive disorders. When someone starts, they can't stop. That's the ritual of acting out. When they try to stop, they find that they can't because there's a mental process that leads them back to it over and over again. The behavior becomes a way of seeking relief from something deeper. 2. The trauma connection. This brings us to what I believe is the most crucial piece of understanding sex addiction, the connection to trauma. Remember that statistic I mentioned earlier. 80% of sex addicts have experienced some kind of mental, physical, or sexual trauma in their childhood. This isn't just a correlation, it's a key to understanding why addiction develops in the first place. Many people who have struggled with sexual addiction also have what we call co-occurring disorders, anxiety, depression, sometimes even more severe conditions like bipolar disorder or even psychosis. There's often trauma and PSD involved. This addiction isn't developed in isolation, it's developed as a coping mechanism for these deeper wounds. Hey, if you're struggling with sex addiction and want to learn more about our recovery program, click the link in the description below to schedule a confidential consultation. 3. Why traditional approaches fail. This is where most recovery attempts go wrong. A lot of people think, oh, it's just to have to white knuckle it and just stop my behavior. They believe that if they can just exercise enough willpower, the addiction will stop. But I can tell you from both personal and professional experience, this approach almost always fails. I could stop for short periods of time, just kind of muscle through it, but I kept relapsing until I got around somebody who completely changed my perspective. They helped me understand that the acting out was just a symptom and a way to cover up my life problem. 4. The real path to recovery. This is where real recovery begins. When we start to understand that the addiction isn't the core problem, it's actually been our solution to dealing with underlying issues. These might include unresolved trauma, deeply held negative beliefs about ourselves, patterns of dishonesty with ourselves and others, emotional dysregulation and difficulties, relationship challenges. The key to recovery isn't just stopping the behavior, it's healing these underlying issues. That's why any effective recovery program needs to include a supportive community of others who understand what you're going through, development of healthy coping skills, deep work and understanding and healing of underlying issues, and a creation of a new life narrative. When we focus on healing these underlying issues, something amazing happens. Not only does the addictive behavior begin to stop, but our life actually gets better. Our whole experience of living changes because we're healing from the inside out. So to answer the question we started with, is sex addiction a mental disorder or a symptom of something deeper? The truth is, it's both. While the behavior patterns absolutely mirror those of an addictive disorder, the real key to recovery lies in understanding and healing the underlying issues and emotional wounds that drive the addiction in the first place. If you or someone you love is struggling with sex addiction, remember, this problem isn't just the behavior. The problem is what's driving that behavior. Real recovery isn't about white-knuckling your way through sobriety. It's about healing the deeper wounds that led to the addiction in the first place. And here's the most hopeful part. When we do the deeper healing, not only does the addiction begin to lose its power, but we actually create a life that's better than anything we could have imagined. Because we're not just stopping the behavior, we're transforming ourselves from the inside out.